What is up, you muffin-munching muggles? Welcome to Fiction and Reality. We help you, yes, you, become the most devilishly gifted human that you know you are and that you knew you always could be. Now you're trapped in my genjutsu, yes. And now you have to watch every agonizing second, every last agonizing second of this video. You will watch the video. Do it. What can a fictional character who sacrificed everything teach us about our own reality, choices, and purpose? What goes into the writing of the troubled journey of sacrifice, of the tragic hero? Itachi Uchiha is the embodiment of sacrifice, and his eyes are a crimson mirror into the reality in which we live. He is, by all stretches of the imagination, the tragic hero. Though those more virtuous traits were shelled by the demonic caricature he was forced to assume. Every day we sculpt an ideal picture of how we want our lives to go, of what we expect. All of us are confined to our own spheres of subjectivity, an ideal reality where cogs are spun smoothly and by the winding belt of peace. A reality so unfathomable, blooming with spurts of joy and not a hint of suffering in sight. A reality shepherded by innocence, a grace that Itachi was unfortunately not spared. The shattering of innocence. All tragic heroes undertake some shattering of innocence. As a young child, Itachi stumbles upon the carnage of the Third Shinobi World War, seeing bodies strewn across the battlefield, and in a moment of ignorance, a blurry film of innocence brushing across his eyes, he took heed of an enemy soldier's request for water, only to have the soldier attempt to take his life, and call Itachi to kill the first shinobi at a ripe young age without understanding of why someone he tried to aid would draw a blade and try to snuff out his life. And let's just say, in terms of preserving innocence, your boy Fugaku wasn't really helping out.
それが死の世界だ。この光景を忘れるのよ。
I mean, it felt like a whole Mufasa Simba thing, but with a dark turn.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
It's like, hey, take a look at this, son. Sometimes, ish happens. His innocence is stripped away as he's forced to confront the brutal reality of human conflict. Itachi's premature exposure to death reveals the fragility of this bubble of innocence. Similarly, we often misperceive the world outside our own limited experience, assuming safety and harmony until harsh truths are revealed. Goes without saying, but the tale of the tragic hero is, of course, one of tragedy, having been exposed to some harsh reality that burst their bubble, their fragmented reality shaped by their hopes of peace and love, and then become moved through their own tragedy and suffering. I think what we're to get from Itachi's blistered reality is that the soiled earth, sopping with despair and suffering, does exist. Even when standing atop an unshaven hill, you're sure to find rocks weathering away and asking yourself why the mound must crumble and if there was any use in it standing at all. As humans, even when forced to live in a pale reality just like us, Itachi sought out his own fragmented illusions, a reason to trudge onward, and a purpose to protect what he loved dear. And that thing that Itachi decided to protect was, of course, his brother Sasuke Uchiha, even if it meant him becoming a demon to do so. Scorned by the infields of war and the sight of a blood-misted field, shaped by Fugaku, his father's teachings of harshness and brutality of the shinobi world, Itachi took his spot in the Anbu forces at the young age of 11. These moments show how innocence and limited knowledge foster false sense of security. For Itachi, the realization of the world's harsh truths, wars, systemic corruption, and the sacrifices required to make peace, forces him to grow up too quickly, mirroring how we must confront realities that challenge our idealistic worldviews as we mature. An outcome to escape. Itachi, having joined the Anbu and having been defined by others as a once-in-a-generational talent, had by the end of his tenure killed countless shinobi. Whether or not the reason was justified, who's to say? And to Itachi, to his reality and the reality of the village, would it have made a difference? But there was definitely one reality in which he would bend the knee for. Itachi, just like all tragic heroes, had an outcome he wanted to escape. And that outcome was the corrosion of Sasuke's innocence due to the bloodthirsty nature of both the Uchiha and the Leaf, and their never-ending quarrel over this balance of powers, historical grievances, and systemic oppression. One that ended in the death of one of his closest friends, Shisui Uchiha of teleportation. You see this clash of powers, it's not too different from the powers that govern us, that govern war between one another, who are reserved, relegated, secluded to their own spheres of reality, who disillusion those beneath them, who they play like pawns by bending their minds towards nightmares and playing on the fear of them losing the false utopia that they reside in. Shisui was driven to entrust his Sharingan to Itachi before taking his own life, sacrificing himself to prevent the Uchiha coup and the inevitable conflict with the Leaf Village. His death signifies the collapse of a peaceful solution to the growing tension between the Uchiha and the Leaf. Also, Shisui's death forces Itachi to confront the futility of his idealism and leaves him bearing the unbearable weight of trying to protect both his clan and the village. He loses his closest friend, shattering any lingering illusions of a peaceful resolution, who had planned to use his genjutsu to sway the minds of the Uchiha before they had time to enact the coup. And honestly, well, that plan might have worked, it might have worked. I don't know, we'll never know. Well, maybe we would have known if the old homeless man in bandages would have just sat his ass down. Look how he did my boy Shisui, just plucking his eyes out like cherries. Shisui's death, for lack of a better term, well, it brought the ops outside. They rolled up on Itachi, who was cast under great suspicion since he recently joined the Leaf's Anbu, which was separate from the Uchiha's police force and known to operate under secrecy and surveillance. I mean, the nerve to check Itachi into the hood. We saw him roll Snake Michael Jackson without even putting a single hand on him, and crucify Kaka-sensei on a cross. Anyway, Itachi shoulder checks them. Then he starts crashing out, getting into his Thanos stuffy.
本当の変化とは規制や制約予感や想像の枠に収まりきっていては
Let's talk about the great tragedy that Itachi and most tragic heroes experience. The great tragedy befalls the greatest of heroes, and it's out of the ashes when they emerge that they tend to be chiseled into shape and construct their worldview. As Thanos said, the hardest sacrifices require the strongest wills. That's something like that.
The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
You know what that feels like, right? When that sprinkled donut is staring you down right in the eye and...
Here you go, sir. Will this work for you? I can't seem to find my license, but...
You have a good day, sir.
Thank you, officer. I appreciate it very much.
You know, you've had one pumpkin spice latte, just too many, but lack the willpower to resist.
I'm just so happy the pumpkin spice is back.
There was an inevitable reality that would prevail in the eyes of Itachi Uchiha that he would give even his life for, with tensions mounting within the Uchiha and their clan echoing to overthrow the leaders of the village, and the Leaf Village leaders themselves, specifically Danzo, starving to hold on to power and prevent what they viewed as the genetically disposed lunatics from disheveling their peace, placed the burden upon Itachi's shoulder to massacre his entire clan. Here again we see the shattering of what little tendrils of string were holding at the bits, the unraveling and reshaping of yet another mode of subjectivity. Why did Itachi decide to massacre his village? What was the string of hope he was holding on to, and why? The preservation of a peaceful future for his beloved brother Sasuke. There was but one outcome that awaited the Uchiha should they have decided to overthrow the Leaf and failed, and that was certain death, and if not that, undoubtedly persecution and exile 10 times worse than what they were currently experiencing. When you ask yourself, what would you relinquish to protect that which you love most, the answers seemingly become infinite, and the construct of your reality, the framework of your morals and ethics suddenly fade gray. A divide between black and white, right and wrong, and your utopian virtues crumble before your eyes, as it did before Itachi's. Many of you may have had to become something you didn't want to, even if for a brief interval of time to secure your own subjective ideals and morals, where your capacity for transformation superseded its shell of growth, and you become capable of doing things you swear you would never have done otherwise. Sacrifice. For Itachi, that meant taking up a blade and griping with his righteousness of where his loyalties may lie, being forced to choose between the village and his own family, and then with tears scrolling down his eyes, slaughtering his own parents, then looking his own brother in the eye, and assume where most tragic heroes do not, the cloak of a devil, the persona of a bloodthirsting monster, moved by power and power alone, all to spare the reputation of the Uchiha, and attempt to spare his brother's life from the never-ending gripes over the balance of powers between the Uchiha and the village. Itachi's devilish caricature, he assumes with the Akatsuki feeds into this idea that whether you're young or old, unfortunately, a great tragedy, suffering will befall us all, and birth an inflection point where we must decide whether or not to weather the storm, succumb to its fury, or with every and any fiber of our own being, rebel, resist, or endure. And that's what makes Itachi Uchiha who he is. A man with a mutual understanding of the subjectivity of the world in which he lives, and who heeds the pings of clashing swords of subjectivity surrounding him. The greatest irony of the man that is Itachi Uchiha is that, to protect what he loved most, he was forced to become the demon that his brother hated, as he saw it as the only way to protect both Sasuke and the village. Itachi knew Sasuke would inevitably seek answers and justice for the Uchiha massacre. By making himself the target of Sasuke's hatred, Itachi directed Sasuke's focus away from the true culprits, the Leaf's leadership and its political corruption. He wanted to prevent Sasuke from targeting the Leaf, as such actions could lead to Sasuke's death or the destruction of the village Itachi sought to protect. Interestingly enough, we learn from Itachi that hate achieves nothing. Though Itachi understood the cycle of hatred and wanted to use it to make Sasuke stronger in his absence, hatred did make Sasuke stronger. However, it also consumed him, leading Sasuke to make self-destructive choices, fueled by flames of vengeance and wrath against Itachi, so much so to the point of him abandoning the one true family awaiting him at the Leaf Village, Team 7. Itachi sought to shield Sasuke from the corrupt and morally ambiguous world he himself had to navigate. By taking on the role of the villain, Itachi allowed Sasuke to live in a simpler narrative, avenging his family by defeating a single enemy, Itachi, rather than grappling with the complex reality of the Leaf's politics. He hoped this would delay Sasuke's exposure, at least, to the broader truths about the Leaf and the Uchiha clan. In a sense, he underestimated Sasuke's independence. Itachi believed he could control the outcome of Sasuke's journey by shaping his motivations. However, Sasuke's choices were his own, and the hatred Itachi fostered didn't lead to the peaceful resolution he had hoped for. The illusions we create. Itachi emphasizes how our understanding of ourselves and others is often clouded by personal biases, emotions, and the illusions we create. And it's the constant fear of someone infarcting our bells of subjectivity that strictures the capacity for evolution and blunts the window for innovation and peace.
Each of us lives dependent and bound by our individual knowledge and our awareness. All that is what we call reality. However, both knowledge and awareness are equivocal. One's reality might be another's illusion. We all live inside our own fantasies.
Itachi highlights that our understanding of the world is shaped by our personal experiences and limited knowledge. What we perceive as reality may differ vastly from someone else's perspective, leading to subjective truths. The idea that one's reality might be another's illusion suggests that truth is not universal, but rather constructed by the individual, bound by their context, upbringing, and beliefs. Personally, this is the most sort of mystique element of Itachi's character, his sense of moral ambiguity and understanding that everyone ascribes to their own morals and ideals and has the right to enact them to protect the things that they hold most dear. That makes him unique. To justify reality is to justify an illusion of subjectivity. However, even within those fantasies and moments of extreme crisis, humanity may find its true essence. And it's that fear of death where we've accepted our fate, that the core, the crux of who we really are can come to light. What illusions have you created for yourself? I know a lot of us have had some fragmented realities that we sculpted on the back of hope. Hey, you, I'm looking at you. You said you were going to work out this year. You said you were finally going to stop packing Ronald McDonald's meat down your throat. You said it, not me. You said you were finally going to hit the iron. Huh? Is that illusion? Is that a dream? But in a lake of dreams, all I see are hollow tides and empty promises. As Itachi said, we're humans, not fish.
Fish are friends, not food.
Except stinking dolphins.
And we'll keep drifting in our sea of illusions, barred by our emotions and all of the elements and facets that make us human, our mortality and the pending fear of death.
Seems you and I are depraved and worthless.
Not true. We are both human, not fish. No matter who you are, you do not truly know what kind of man you've become until you reach the very end.
Even within moments of his death approaching, he wore the shell of the devil, but we saw it with each step, with each fading breath, cracking and crumbling, stretching towards the fate that befalls every tragic hero. That it's true that in their final moments people show who they really are, as they have no more loyalty to the tangibles of this world, but only stricter time for reflection. And Itachi showed us that it was his love for his brother that persisted, and the longing to preserve a fruitful future for him that kept him trucking onward. So I want to know, what does your reality mean to you? Go forth and explore the fragments and shards of your immortality that make a life that much more worth living. Itachi leaves us with the understanding that the world is a crucible of clashing illusions and subjectivities that we as humans cannot escape until death takes its toll. Yet we are willing to, just as he was, live in comfort within our own illusions, as long as it means that we can protect that which we care for most, even if it means that we are straying our needle further from the governing power's moral compass. Let me know what you thought of Itachi's tragic tale and the undertaking of a hero ensnared by tragedy, forced to shroud himself in a cloak of persecution. I will leave a link to my socials in the description below. And if you took something from this video, I want you to take a moment, I'm begging on my knees, to hit that subscribe button below and like the video. It pushes these videos out so that others can take the key tokens that you've gained. So do yourself and your fellow comrades a favor. And with that, remember, if ever you're lost in the forestry words, strip your mind from fantasy and look to the window of the world, and there your mind will run free.